it's Hailey, and today I'm going to be talking about the books that I am hoping to read in March. So February didn't exactly go as well as I had hoped. It was just kind of a weird month. Like, I started my new job at the end of January, so it was the first month of doing 2 jobs at the same time and trying to have a life. And I just kind of wasn't really wanting to read all that much in my downtime. I kind of went through a little bit of a reading slump where, like, it wasn't like I was not reading things that I enjoyed. I just was more inclined to do other things rather than reading, and I was mostly listening to audiobooks. I did still manage to get to like a few books, but I definitely had some higher goals than I was really able to actually achieve. So for March, this TBR is all over the place. Usually I kind of have a bit of a mood and a bit of a theme going into the month. Not really a theme, but things that I'm gravitating towards. But honestly, since I've been kind of slumpy, I literally have like no clue what I'm wanting to read. So I just have a few books here that they actually have kind of a color scheme. I'm just realizing a lot of them are like corally. I don't know why, but these are just kind of the books that I was gravitating toward for one reason or another. But I honestly have no clue what is going to happen this month. I am going home for the first little bit of the month. I mean, the first week, but I still will be working and I still will be like trying to manage everything. So it's just kind of trying to find a life-work balance right now, which is my struggle, and reading has kind of been a casualty of that. But I've been talking for too long already, so let's just get into it. So I just wanted to take a second to thank the sponsor for today's video, Function of Beauty. If you guys aren't familiar with Function of Beauty, it offers you custom hair care, and I have been using them for a couple of years now and really enjoying it. So you just take a 5-minute quiz, fill out your hair profile, and then you get to pick your 5 hair goals. For my personal 5 hair goals, I chose anti-frizz, color protection, curl definition, deep condition, and lengthening. Then further from that, you also get to customize your scent, and I chose the peach scent. It's peach and mandarin, and I always choose that one. And you get to choose the strength. I always choose strong because I just want to like go like this and then everyone can smell my hair. But then you get to put your name on each of the bottles. So mine say my name on them, which is super fun. And you get to pick the color. I went with a blue and a pink this time. I felt like it was very fitting for springtime, but you can go with anything. And they also ship them with these super cute stickers, so you get to like put them on. I just used a couple of them this time, but they just make it like that much more fun. I love Function of Beauty because then I don't need a bunch of products. I have everything that I need right in my shampoo and conditioner, and like, I don't know what else you could want. They are dermatologist tested, so I know it's not going to irritate my scalp, and they also are paraben free, sulfate free, and vegan and cruelty free. In addition to the shampoo and conditioner, they also offer hair masks and a hair serum, like an oil serum, and a leave-in conditioner, and I actually have tried all of them and really enjoyed them. Particularly, I really enjoy using the leave-in conditioner. So if you guys were interested in getting 20% off of your first 16-ounce set, Function of Beauty has been kind enough to offer you just that. So if you click the link in my subscription box down below and subscribe, then you can get 20% off of your first order of a 16-ounce set. And thank you once again so much to Function of Beauty for sponsoring today's video. I always love working with them because I just love using their shampoo and conditioner. It works great for me. So definitely check it out if you guys were interested. That link will be down below. So the first book that I would like to read in March is When the World Was Ours by Liz Kessler. This book is set in Vienna, and it is set in 1936. So it's just before why did I say that like that? World War II, and it is following a bunch of different characters as they have kind of this last weekend of freedom before their worlds start to completely fall apart. So I think this is going to be really interesting. I'm not sure if it kind of bounces in between. I don't think it does, but it is actually inspired by a true story, which is really cool, and I didn't know that. But it's just these characters like sharing this perfect day together before obviously everything is going to change. And will they ever find each other again? Will they ever be able to meet up like that again? Those are kind of the questions throughout the novel. So I think this is going to be be a really interesting historical fiction. I do love me a good historical fiction, so it's definitely one that I'm hoping to read. Next up is Somewhere Between Bitter and Sweet by Laken Z. Kemp. So I've really been hoping to read this book, and it fell off my radar a little bit through winter because I wasn't really in the mood for like contemporaries or anything. I mean, I kind of was, but the point is I have been watching the Great British Bake Off. Finally, I did watch the Great Canadian Baking Show first, but then it's actually called Baking Show in Canada. But I recently have been finishing the last couple of seasons, and like, because I can watch it while I'm working, I have been watching it, and there was like a point where I was getting through like a season a day, or maybe every 2 days, but I think for a little bit it was a season a day, which is ridiculous, but I have just been having so much fun with it. So this book has to do with baking, which is the connection there. The main character dreams about opening her own pastry shop next to her father's store, or not store, but restaurant, Nacho's Tacos. But this also deals with some more difficult topics because they hire someone at Nacho's Tacos, and then there is this investigation into his legitimacy of his immigration. So it's a very difficult situation, and I think it's going to be a really sad book, but I do also know that it has to do with baking, and I just have been super intrigued by this book since I've gotten my hands on it. Next is Girls of Paper and Fire by Natasha Nyang. So when I was picking the books for this TBR, I was kind of trying to think of books that I would like to listen to on audio, since like I've said, that's been something that I've been doing a lot of. So this is definitely one that I have been really intrigued by the audiobook and wanting to listen to it. It is a fantasy story, and basically every year there are these 8 girls who are chosen to be paper girls, and they serve the king, and it's the highest honor that you can have. But this year there was actually a 9th girl who was chosen, and she isn't a paper girl, she's a fire girl. So I've heard some amazing things about this book, and I know that it does once again deal with kind of more difficult topics, so I'm definitely super intrigued by it. I also have been kind of gravitating towards more fantasies recently, so I think this would be a good one to go with. Next up is Sister of the Bollywood Bride by Nandini Bajpai. I think this book sounds so adorable, and this year, if you don't know, is pretty much the year of weddings for me. So both of my sisters are getting married, so I'm standing up in 2 weddings this year, and because of that, I'm traveling a lot. I'm going home every other month, like it's just a lot, but I want to celebrate those wedding vibes by reading some of the books that I have on my TBR that have to do with weddings, and this is one of them. This one actually is pretty perfect because it follows sisters, and the mother of these sisters has unfortunately died, and the youngest sister has taken it upon herself to try and make her sister's wedding as perfect as it can possibly be and make it the wedding that their mother would have wanted. So I think that seems like a really sweet storyline and something that I would love. Also, another thing I wanted to mention is that Sims came out with a wedding expansion pack. It's a game pack, but you know what I mean. So it truly is just the year of weddings. Weddings are everywhere. Speaking of that, I also have We Can't Keep Meeting Like This by Rachel Lynn Solomon. This book is set over the course of a summer at all of these different weddings, and it follows the daughter of the caterers and the son of the harpist, and they have been booked at a lot of the same weddings and everything, so they are meeting up and starting a relationship, and I believe it's kind of an enemies to lovers sort of thing, but I think this is going to be adorable. Kind of reminds me a little bit of Maybe This Time by Casey West, but that one was about like the daughter of a florist and once again a caterer, but it wasn't just at weddings. I think this one could be really cute though, and I did really enjoy the other book that I've read by Rachel Lynn Solomon, so I think that I might like this one too. It definitely seems like something right up my alley. Next up is By a Charm and a Curse by Jamie Questel. So I've actually had this book for quite a while now, and I have really been wanting to listen to the audiobook. I've almost done it quite a few times, but I just have listened to something else instead, but I think that this month might be the time that I will finally listen to this audiobook. So this is a carnival sort of story, which I've read quite a few of. It kind of reminds me of if Caraval and Once Upon a Broken Heart had a baby. Sorry, Sputnik is chasing Charlie and trying to get him to play with her. She's like hiding behind a laundry basket, and that's why you're hearing all the pitter patters and everything. But anyways, this is set at a traveling circus known as Le Grand Carnaval. Fantastic. Le is the only French word in there. I don't know why I said the rest Frenchly. But it is bound by a charm and held together by a centuries-old curse that protects its members from ever growing older or getting hurt. I say that this reminds me of like Once Upon a Broken Heart and Caraval, because obviously you can see the Caraval vibes, but because it says a kiss is never just a kiss, so I feel like, you know, there's something important there, something a little deeper going on. I just felt like this seemed like a fun, quick fantasy, which seems like something I would love. Next is Meet Me in the Margins by Melissa Ferguson. So I pre-ordered this book and my copy just came in, but I felt like it seemed appropriate to read during my internship at a publisher because it's set at a publisher. So it follows a character who she works at this like very prestigious publisher that publishes like capital F fiction, so like literary fiction and things like that. But she actually has a secret, which is that she loves to write romance, and she also has found the book nook, which is like this little secret room at the publishing house where she can lose herself, get inspiration for her romance, and write it. So one day she accidentally forgets her romance novel manuscript in there, and when she returns to get it, she finds that someone has edited it. And I can never say edited. Edited. I don't know. But basically they left some notes in the margins. So then I believe through the manuscript they start having kind of this relationship and banter. It seems like so much fun, and like I just like reading things that fit whatever's going on in my life at the moment, and this seems just perfect. Not that I'm like actually at the publishing house, but just with like the publishing vibes for my job, I just feel like it seems like a lot of fun. Next is another book that's kind of circusy, and that is Harley in the Sky by Akemi Dawn Bowman. This book follows a main character who has dreamed of being a trapeze artist for as long as she can remember, and she's actually the daughter of the owners of a very famous circus in Las Vegas. But she ends up getting into a fight with her parents because they want her to go to school instead. They don't want her to pursue just being a trapeze artist. So she ends up leaving and joining a rival circus, which I feel like there's gonna be some drama there. I don't know, but this seems very interesting and like it could be really cool. Like I've never really read anything like this or heard anything like this, and I think it seems like something I might like. Next is Heirs, apparently by Diana Ma. So as we do get into kind of spring, although I know, so the difference between where I live now, Quebec, and Windsor, where I used to live, we lived in the most southern part of Canada as you can possibly get. So the weather was very different. It was a lot warmer. So in March, it starts to get warm. So for me, like March, mid-March, I'm like summer, or not summer, spring has started. But I know that that's not going to be the case here. As I look outside at the blankets of snow, I know that I'm going to have to wait a little bit longer for spring. However, I do want to still kind of bring those spring vibes into my life by starting to read some more fun, upbeat, and light romances. And that's what I'm feeling like I'm going to get from this one. It reminds me of Tokyo Ever After by, what's her name? I can't think of the author's name off the top of my head right now, but the point is, it reminds me of that a lot. Amiko Jean, that's the name. But this is actually about a girl who ends up finding out that she is the daughter of, I believe it's the only princess of like Chinese dynasty. I don't exactly remember, and it doesn't fully say on the back of this. The back of the book synopsis is very different than the Goodreads one, but the main character is an aspiring actress and she ends up landing a really big role, and to act in that role she has to go to Beijing, and she actually has never been to Beijing, so she's forbidden from entering the city, I guess. Seems like there's a lot going on there, but I do know that the gist of it is that she is like the daughter or descendant from royalty. So I'll have to find out a little bit more about it when I actually read it. Next up is The Heart Principle by Helen Huang. So I know that this is a romance story, but from what I've heard, it's much deeper than that and more intense and emotional. So I'm definitely prepared for that based on what all of you guys have told me. Now, this follows a girl who, I believe she's a violinist, yeah, and she ends up accidentally achieving career success with a viral YouTube video. But this is a romance story between her her and Quan from the previous books in this series. So I'm really excited for him to get his own romance story. But I do know lots of you have warned me that this probably shouldn't be classified as romance because it's a lot more intense than that. So that has made me really intrigued to read it. And I don't know what's taken me so long, but I feel like I should definitely get on this one. Next up is I Must Betray You by Ruta Sepetys. I am so excited for this book. I love Ruta Sepetys. She is like one of my favorite historical fiction authors and just authors in general. But this book is set in 1989 in Romania. And my sister's fiance is actually Romanian, and a couple of friends of mine are Romanian. We basically know a lot of Romanian people, we have realized. So that has made me want to read this book even more. This is about the communist regime in Romania and how all across Europe there were communism, like communist regimes that are crumbling. But in Romania, there is like this citizen spy network that's going on, and the main character ends up being blackmailed to join that, but he ends up using his position instead of betraying his friends to fight back. So definitely a really risky thing, and I'm very excited to read this one and learn more. It's super intriguing. And the final book on my TBR for this month is Grown by Tiffany D. Jackson. I'm a huge fan of Tiffany D. Jackson, and this is the only other book of hers that I own that I haven't read yet. But before I pick up more of her stuff, I want to finish with the ones that I own. So this one is not her most recent release, but like she had one book that she's released since this one. Basically, she's released White Smoke in 2021, which I've read and really enjoyed. This one came out in 2020, and it deals with music, and the main character is an aspiring musician, and she's been working with this guy, and then he ends up mysteriously turning up dead, and she is like the only suspect in it. So Tiffany D. Jackson, if you don't know, writes really like wild thrillers and mysteries, and they honestly keep me on the edge of my seat the entire time. So I'm expecting no different from this book, and I'm definitely really excited to dive into it. So those are all of the books that I am hoping to read this March. I'm definitely going to like probably read way different things than what I just talked about, but this is kind of the vibe going into the month. I am really excited to hopefully have some more time to dedicate to reading as I kind of find my footing with working 2 jobs. So there is a good chance that this month will be more successful than the last. But thank you guys so much for watching today's video. If you have read any of these books, please let me know your thoughts on them, and please also let me know what you were hoping to read in March. So thank you so much for watching once again, and I will see you in another new video soon. Bye!